We love food colored green, bell peppers and long string beans, pickles, celery, cucumbers too. All these foods are good for you.
Welcome to Storytime Cooks, where we learn about food through books. Today we're going to be reading Oliver's Vegetables by Vivian French, illustrated by Allison Bartlett. Oliver goes on a visit to his grandparents, and his grandparents have this beautiful garden. Do any of you have gardens? It is definitely the season. Let's see what Oliver finds in Grandpa's garden that might be something yummy to eat. Finish up, Oliver, said Mother, or we will miss the bus. We can't walk to Grandpa's house, asked Oliver. No, said his mother, it's too far. Hurry up. Oliver must live in a city because he's going to take a bus to go to his grandparents' house. Typically, we just get in our cars, don't we? And Oliver's eating his lunch. When they got to Grandpa's, look at all those things that they saw growing. The best thing about Grandpa's house was the wonderful garden. I grow all of my own vegetables, said Grandpa very proudly. And he spent a lot of time in his garden. That's beautiful. I don't eat vegetables, said Oliver. I only eat French fries. Well, if you want French fries, said Grandpa, you must find the potato. If you find something else, you can eat that and no complaints. Is that a bargain? And guess what? Grandpa and Oliver are shaking hands. And sometimes that's how we seal the deal. That's how we say, yeah, I'll take that bargain. So Oliver is going to start looking for some things. Oliver ran around the garden, but he couldn't see any potatoes. They must be hiding, he said, and he pulled at the nearest leaves, and he pulled at these kinds of leaves. I don't know if you guys can see this, but he got a beautiful carrot out of the garden, and this carrot actually came from someone's garden, and it still has the tops on it. A lot of times when we get our carrots at the grocery store, they've cut all that off, and we just have the bottom part. Or sometimes we just get baby carrots at the grocery store, but they actually start out as these big carrots. Carrots, said Grandpa, just the thing for Monday night supper. That night, Oliver ate his first carrots. Wonder if he liked them. I bet they were pretty good. Oliver took a long time making up his mind on Tuesday as to what he was going to pull up or pick. Gran and Grandpa came to watch him. The crinkly leaves are pretty, he said at last. Are the potatoes there? Spinach, said Grandpa. And Oliver had pulled up some spinach. And guess what? They had it for supper that night, and it was good, said Oliver. On Wednesday, Oliver got up early. Potatoes are very important, he said, so they must have some really, really big leaves. Here they are, Grandpa smiled. That is rhubarb. They had rhubarb pie that evening, and guess what? Oliver said, this is good. Actually, it was very good. It rained on Thursday. When it stopped, Oliver hurried outside. Have you found the potatoes? Grandpa asked. No, said Oliver. I found snails and slugs. And today we're going to be making a little snail. Are they eating my potatoes? Grandpa shook his head. That's cabbage. And guess what? Oliver had 2 helpings of cabbage that night, and it was very, very good. And cabbage does grow in gardens on the ground, But sometimes we turn that cabbage into coleslaw, or we make some cooked cabbage out of it. Or sometimes we just eat it plain. On Friday, Oliver was sure he had found the potatoes, but when he pulled up the leaves, he pulled up a bunch of beets. Look how pretty those beets are. They're such a pretty color. Oliver ate all his beet salad, and it was very, very, very good, he said. Seems like Oliver's liking everything he's eaten, and maybe it was because he hadn't tried it before that he thought he didn't like it. On Saturday, Oliver played soccer, and the ball landed in a tangle of sticks and leaves. Oliver was sure the potatoes weren't there, and Grandpa nodded. "Those are peas," he said. Oliver had 3 helpings of pea soup that evening. "Was it good?" asked Grandpa. "No," said Oliver. "It was delicious." Oliver rushed to the garden on Sunday. "Here they are." "How did you know?" asked Grandpa. "They were the only things left," said Oliver. And there they are. They're digging up the potatoes. And one of the reasons he didn't see the potatoes is because they grow under the ground. So on the tops, you see leaves, but the potatoes are hidden. "Can we have French fries now?" asked Oliver. "You scrub the potatoes," said Gran, "and I'll peel them some, Grandpa, and then we'll cut them up." So if you didn't know, French fries are actually made from potatoes that they had to scrub first, because remember, we always scrub our vegetables before we wash them. Oliver, Gran, and Grandpa sat down to eat. The door opened, and in walked Oliver's mom, and she saw the plate of French fries. "Oh dear, I did hope Oliver would eat something different while he was here," she said. Oliver and Grandpa looked at each other. His mother started laughing, and they laughed, and they laughed, and they laughed, because Oliver tried not just the French fries, but he ate peas and beets and rhubarb. He ate everything that he picked out of Grandpa's wonderful garden. Well, today we're going to make a snail, because sometimes it's just fun to play with our food. So we've used a cucumber and cut it in half. Remember, we have to wash our fruits and vegetables first before we eat them. The base of our snail is actually a carrot, and we took some peanut butter to hold it all together. Our snail's head is a blueberry, but you could use a little cherry tomato. You could use whatever you wanted to create your creatures. All these things pretty much fall into the fruit group. The vegetable group of my plate. That blueberry would be a fruit, but everything else would be a vegetable. To make our little antenna on our snail, we use some chives. And chives are an herb that kind of tastes like an onion, but it's fun to flavor our foods with plants as well. I hope you'll come back next week and join us for another segment of Storytime Cooks as we continue to learn about food through books.
We love food colored green, bell peppers and long string beans, pickles, celery, cucumbers too. All these foods are good for you.